I'm joined here today with Juan Santocono, our head designer here at T-Spline, and also Tom Finnegan, one of our key T-Spline's developers. And so what the plan is today is to walk through actually how to use T-Splines for Rhino. We're assuming that everyone's downloaded the free trial, and the purpose today is not to show necessarily why to use T-Splines, but actually show some of the nuts and bolts of how the software can be used. We'll be focused overall in kind of two key thrusts. First, using T-Splines to design while you model, and then second, to focus on how you can use T-Splines to create nice blends and transitions. And we'll be focused on learning these commands: the extrude, thicken, bridge, delete, merge, insert edge, and convert to Rhino surface command. And just by understanding how to use these few commands, it really opens up the way that you can use T-Splines and use it as a powerful tool to save time and more quickly create free-form, flowing organic designs. So throughout the webinar, all the attendees are muted, but please ask questions throughout the webinar. And Tom and Juan will either type back answers or else they'll alert me and we can address a question verbally. And looking forward to doing this. So the way that we're going to attack this is we're going to be making a ring with T-Splines. And so here's the, let me just open up my layers to show what the final ring is going to look like. It's going to be this heart ring with some nice blends and transitions and just a very smooth T-Spline organic surface. But before we dive into making this entire ring, we're going to take a look at each of the key commands used during the ring, and so that we can look and see how each of these commands works individually, and then put them together when we actually make the ring. So the hope is that you can get a good understanding of these commands and use them in other settings in your work, and then we'll actually show how to apply it using this ring. So let's go ahead and just open up a new Rhino file and just start out showing each of these T-Splines commands. So the extrude command is something that can be used. Let's go ahead and actually pull up my T-Splines toolbar. Let's go ahead and type toolbar, pull up T-Splines, and we can, let's see, I'll use my toolbars with text for the webinar so that the brain can see what I'm using. Go ahead and close this out. So here's our extrude command, and it can be used on edges, faces, and also on lines or curves. So let's go ahead and just lay out a Rhino curve to see how this command can work. So I'm just going to just add a few control points here. And then I'll grab this curve and then open up my T-Splines manipulator. And when I open this up, then I have my heads-up display, which tells me a lot of information about how I can be using T-Splines. And this tells me I have my translator manipulator up. And if I just drag on this curve with the arrows, you can see it just moves the curve around in the scene. These disks will keep it in the plane. But if rather than moving this, I want to create a surface, then what I do is hold down my Alt key. So now I'm holding down Alt and just dragging this arrow, and you can see that now it's creating a surface. Let's turn on my shaded viewport and maximize perspective. So I'm creating this T-Spline surface just by dragging Alt and holding down Alt and dragging the manipulator. So let's do that again. You can see each time I do that, it adds a new row of T-Splines faces. So this is just a very fast way to grow my surface. So I can also select these edges and hold down Alt and drag to increase my surface. So you can see here I'm creating this organic T-Spline form. You can see my tessellation is not very good. I can improve that by opening up my T-Splines options and changing my meshing to maybe high, and you can see that will give that a little smoother mesh. Okay, so now that I have my the surface pulled out, maybe what I would like to do is create a tighter transition here. And so you can see this is a very yeah. Okay. You can see this is a very smooth transition. And so if I want to tighten this up, then we can use the T-Spline's insert edge command. So just going back to our list, that's one of the commands that we're looking at. So the way the insert edge command works is you just run the insert edge command, and I'll do it simple because that will tighten up my surface. And then it just says to select the edge loop to be duplicated. So let's select this edge and hit enter. And then when I mouse over the surface, you can see there's this new edge that will be entered. So if I click it over here, you can see there's a new edge entered, and suddenly the surface kind of pops out to be a tighter transition. The reason why it's tighter now is because if we turn on our control points, you can see there's more control points here in this area, and where there's more control points, then the surface is tighter there. So I'm going to undo this for a second. Just hit undo, and use the insert edge command one more time. This time when I click my edges, I'm going to say I want to insert on both sides. So now as I mouse over here, you can see there's edges going on both sides, and this gives me a more even fillet-like surface there. But again, this is still one single T-spline surface. So if I move my T-spline's faces, even right there, I can still change how the surface looks, and it will stay smooth and together. So those are two commands: the extrude command and the insert edge command that we'll be using to create our T-spline and add some tight detail there. So let's take a look at what the other commands are that we'll be looking at. So we've done extrude, insert edge. Let's take a look at thicken and bridge. So one thing that the T-spline's thicken command does is it creates a solid from a surface. So it actually will give the T-spline surface some volume. So here's the thicken command, and I can grab this T-spline surface and hit enter. And you can see it gives me a UI that shows which way the surface will be thickened. I can also just type in a distance, so say 2, and then the direction that I want it to go. And the surface will be thickened in that direction. So I'll go ahead and hit enter. You can see this is now a volume, and it'll be more obvious if I move a face. You can see that this is now a thick surface. Usually when I use the thicken command, I like to use one of the options here that lets us crease the edges. So if I do a creased edge and then hit 2, you can see now that's a nice kind of creased edge there. And again, this is still a T-spline that can be moved around. So the thicken command will always work on your T-spline. It doesn't detect self-intersections, so sometimes if you have a really tight curvature, you need to go in and move it afterwards. But depending on the tolerance or the specifications, it can be a very useful command to get a solid very quickly. So now let's take a look at the bridge command. And to do that, I'm going to make a copy of the T-spline. Let's see, so let's go to object mode and just see, copy, and then I'll just go ahead and change to my rotate manipulator. And if I double click one of these rotation rings, then I can enter an exact rotation distance. So I'll rotate this 180 degrees. So now it's facing this way. So what the bridge command does is it can actually create a bridge or a transition between two separate T-spline surfaces. So let's go ahead and run this bridge command. I'm just selecting the faces that I want to bridge. And then I can show, there's all sorts of options about what the preview is, how the bridge can be aligned. You can see that these arrows need to be lined up and in the same spot. So if I clicked it and have the arrows moved, you can see the bridge is kind of all twisty-like. So you want to make sure that the arrows are in the same point, in the same location, so that it lines up correctly. But then when I hit enter, you can see that it bridges it up nicely. And what this bridge has done is it's removed, we had this crease on our T-spline surface, and it's gone ahead and removed that crease by default so that it's nice and smooth. If we want to add that crease back, then we can just go ahead and run the T-spline's crease command to bring it back there. But you can see the bridge by default gives you this nice smooth transition, and then you can continue to work with the T-spline surface. So that bridge there, this is a C2 transition that is created here. Okay, let's just take a look at some of the last commands that we're going to use before we jump into into actually making the ring. So we've done extrude, we've done thicken, bridge, insert edge. So let's take a look at merge and delete. So let's take a few steps back and see where before we've thickened this T-spline. Here we just have a T-spline surface, and whereas bridge will actually create a surface, new surface in between two T-spline's surfaces, what merge will do is it will actually merge two surfaces together. So if we go ahead and copy this again, let's see, we need to turn off the T-spline's control points. And then again rotate this. Then what merge will do is it will actually merge these two edges together. So it does not need to be within any sort of tolerance. I mean, the closer you get, the less change there will be to the surface. But this merge edges command will let you select the first edge chain that you want merged, and then hit enter, and then the chain that you want the first one to be moved to. And you can see that it actually creates a single surface here. So we can again we can go ahead and move this surface, and it updates. Just, I mean, it is one surface. And merging, it doesn't have to have the same number of edges on either side. Like this could have twice as many edges as this one. So we could show that by, I'm just going to run the subdivide face command to just subdivide all these faces. So we have like twice as many here now. And the merge command will still work if I'm just going to double click to select this whole edge. And then double click to select that whole edge. You can see it still merges nicely there. Coincidentally, these points right here, you see how this point tees off. That's still curvature continuous C2 smooth there. That's where T-splines get their name, is from these T points, which is how you can end local detail in the middle of a surface. And the final command that we're going to look at is the delete command. And with the delete command, you can delete both edges and faces. So again, with T-splines, if you don't want detail in some part of the surface, you can just select edges that you don't want and hit the delete key, or also the delete command here. You can see it just removes those, and as it removes those edges, then the surface gets, I mean, it kind of flattens out because there's no longer that detail there. So that's a very nice way to keep your surface light without a lot of wrinkles in it. Another thing you can do, though, is you can delete faces of a T-spline model. So if I go to face mode, I can delete faces to make a hole, say right here. And then you can move and manipulate the edges and vertices on the edge of the hole. So those are kind of just 6 or 7 commands that are great to have in your T-spline's toolset. And now let's put them all together and see how to use them to make an object. Tom, any questions so far that we need to stop and address? Okay, great. So here we have some curves similar to the curves that we laid out before, and we're going to use these as the basis to make a ring with T-splines. So just like we did before, to make a surface with this, we are going to turn on the manipulator and then hold down the Alt key to drag this up. And you can see now we have T-spline's ribbon that looks like a heart. This is just a paper-thin surface right now. So to create a surface from it, what should we do? Or create a volume from it, what should we do? We'll go ahead and thicken it. So just select this T-Spline, hit enter, and now again, see we can thicken outside or inside. And again, we can type the distance here, but in this case, I'm just going to kind of eyeball it and just hit enter. And you can see now I've got this this thickened heart. I had my creased edges on option on, which I'm not going to want here, so I can either undo that, or I can just select all these edges and hit the remove crease command. So let's go ahead and remove that crease. You can see now it's a smooth T-spline. Okay, so I have this heart here, and now I need to create the main part of the ring. So I'll do that same procedure. I'm just going to hold down Alt and drag to get some distance here. And by the way, I've just been freehanding this, but if I undo this and double-click while holding down Alt, then it lets me enter in an exact distance for how long I want this to be. So let's see what 2 gets us. Not too bad. So this is 2 units wide now. So again, we'll go ahead and grab this and thicken this. We can get a volume here. So go ahead and turn off the crease edges this time and thicken that up. And with this ring, we want to have, again, just take a look at the final one. We're going to want to have 2 of these bands coming down. So to do that, we'll go ahead and copy this. Let's see, it looks like I need to turn off my edge mode, go to object mode so I can select it. Let's see. Yeah, let's change to a different viewport. There we go. So now we've made a copy of this. And then I'm going to use the T-Spline as a manipulator to position these better into where I want them to come into the heart. So I want these to kind of transition into the heart at the bottom and at the top. So now that these are in position, I'm going to use the bridge command to bridge these together. So one thing, the bridge command works on edges or faces, and you can see my faces are kind of small and skinny here, and frankly kind of hard to see. So when we're doing commands that require us to use edges or faces and they're hard to make out, I like to switch. I'd like to use the T-Spline smooth toggle, and I'll just toggle everything. And this just gives me a kind of a boxy mess representation of what the T-Spline's topology looks like, and it just makes it a lot easier to see where all the faces are. And so I can do the bridge command, and it'll just be easier to work. So now that I can see this, I'll just move this a little bit so that it's lining up better with the faces. And go ahead and use that bridge command. So just like we did previously, the bridge command, we select one group of faces and another group of faces. And make sure these arrows are lined up and in the right corners. Let's have one segment, and just hit enter. And we'll do that again here. So run the bridge command. Select this face, and again, those are wound the right way, so I'll hit enter. I'll go ahead and smooth toggle back so we can kind of see what the model's looking like now. So you can see we've got, these are transitioning rather nice. So you can see there's, the ISO curves are kind of crazy, and we'll address that in a second. But let's go ahead and finish bridging first. So I'll switch back my smooth toggle and do this bridge. And bridge this up. And it's kind of hard for me to see if these are wound the right way, so I'm just going to click here because I know these corners should be lining up together, and make sure that the arrows are pointing the same way so I can make sure that that bridge is going well. Then we'll do it again here. You can also pre-select the faces before you go into the bridge command. And that looks good. Okay, so now we've got the kind of the topology that's laid out. Let's go ahead and smooth toggle back and see what our surface is looking like. Okay, so everything's hooked together, but it looks a little bit crazy here. Whenever you do operations like bridge or something where you're combining surfaces and it looks crazy afterwards, one thing that I always like to do after that is to run the this make uniform command. So you do that by right-clicking on the edit layout button, and then after that, it does an amazing job at cleaning up the surface. Look how much nicer that looks. And what that does is just kind of relaxes everything that after the bridge. So all of a sudden we've got a very nice smooth surface, and look at these transitions. Remember, this is still a T-spline, so you can still move these around, and you can move the edges. You can click here to move or faces or edges, and the surface just updates beautifully. It just stays nice and smooth there. Okay, so now we've got this ring like this, but if we want to bring these two rings together and join them so that they turn into one, that's another thing that's pretty simple to do with T-splines. Let's go ahead and do that. First, what I'll do is move the faces so that they're closer to each other. So I'll do that by making sure I have my faces selected, and then just selecting these and just dragging them over here. You can see up here my surface is updating smoothly as it kind of has the effect of these moved faces influencing it. So now I've got these closer, and I could do two things. One is I could bridge this if I wanted to create additional surface there, but I'm going to go ahead and actually use the merge command because I want this to just merge up nicely. And the merge command, it merges edges, not faces, so first I need to delete these faces. So I'm going to go back to my box mode by smooth toggling, just so I can see the faces easier. I'm just going to select these interior 4 faces on each side and delete them. Just hitting the delete button. So you can see we've got those. Anyway, there's a hole there. Let's go ahead and smooth toggle. You can see while I had those faces deleted, kind of this intermediate step, then the surface, it kind of looks like a zipper that's waiting to be zipped up or closed. So as soon as we merge this up, this will look a lot smoother. I'm just going to go ahead and move the faces a little bit closer together, just because I want there to be as little movement as possible when I actually do the merge. But now I'll switch to my edge mode, and I'm just going to do a selection of all of these interior edges. Let's go back to perspective viewport so we can see what I have selected. I just have all of the edges selected that I want merged together. And when you select edges before you run the merge command, then both pairs of edges will move and be met in the middle. If I was to select one pair and then the second pair, then the first pair would be moved to the second pair. But since these are both selected before I go to the command, then they'll both just meet in the middle. So run this merge command, and you can see, wow, let's redo that just to see what happened. Here we had everything kind of blocked out, and then after we merge it, everything is everything's merged together, but it's merged quite smoothly. So you see here we have that nice smooth transition. So if that's too high for us, we can just move that down and create a bigger hole there. So now we're nearly done with our ring. So we have all of these areas, and you can see, some of these look a little bit pinched, but I can just move that. Adjust that so that it is flowing more naturally. And again, these are maybe the two biggest reasons why I think you might consider using T-splines. One is that you can really design while you model. So after I get this ring put together, I can I can explore different variations just by tweaking the surface. And the other reason to use T-splines is that all of these transitions and blends, they just kind of come as part of the T-spline surface. So anything that you want blend smoothly together, just merge or bridge it, and it will be a smooth transition. one thing that T-Splines does by default, though, is it kind of everything is really quite smooth. So if you want to tighten anything up, that's when you use something like the insert edge command that we introduced at the very beginning. So I'm going to run this insert edge command again, and you can either select one edge loop or you can select an edge ring. So I'll go ahead and select an edge loop again just by double-clicking to select the whole thing really quickly. And now you can see, let's see, I'll do both sides off. So I'm just going to do it on one side. As you add in more edges, so if I just click right here, the same effect happens that happened just when we were doing the practice, is it tightens up the curvature. So let me undo that so you can see the difference here. So you see how that's very smooth. And then by adding in an edge, you can see how that just tightens that up nicely. So we can come around the ring, and any place where we want to have a tighter edge, we can insert some edges. So maybe on this side of the ring, we want it to be a tighter edge. Then we'll go ahead and insert some edges. So a fast way to do some of the selection is if I do paint selection, edge ring, you can see how that selects all of these edges in a ring here. And the insert edge command can also take that as an input. So go insert edge and run that. You can see again that just tightens that up. So there's still some subtlety here, but it's a lot tighter than it was before. So we can go ahead over here, do that same thing. So select an edge, select edge ring, and insert edge. And you can just tighten that up. So we can do that here if we want to. Or we can leave this as a smoother interior and have the tighter edges on the outside. But now that we have the T-spline ring, how we would like it, so maybe we could still do some more tweaking here, just to pull this heart down. Let's bottom down a little bit. I think we can also do it something like weighting these edge points. If we weight these points, it will. You see how that even makes it a tighter bottom there. But now that we're done with the T-splines design, going to Rhino is just a push button conversion. So we can just use this convert button, and I'll right-click it to convert to Rhino surfaces. And let me hit F3 so we can just show how the surface layout is here. Now the T-spline is just split up into Rhino surfaces, and so you can use any of your Rhino commands on this T-spline model now. That's kind of the introductory webinar that we have for you today. So what we've done is just introduced some T-splines commands that by mastering just these few T-splines commands, you can create a lot of the models that you'd like that T-splines is good for, and then use those to create a ring model. So our hope is that by using T-splines, you can be able to design while you model, and then also get nice smooth transitions that make it easy to make design iterations.